Friends, I'm having a great pleasure to attend the seminar organized by university and let me come back to the paper, because when the organizers told me to bring a paper, I would take very cautious steps. But even in UN, India's foreign minister changes his paper and reads somebody's paper. So coming here, I took. So my subject was allotted is corporate frauds and the role of media in the cover-up. In the older days, elders tell the children when they refuse to take food or sleep about the arrival of the dacoits and the horses. But for the past 2 decades, after the so-called or half-baked or the convenient form of liberalization, the reality is the horses have changed to the crow's-worth vehicles and private jets. Look at the way the government shut the eyes when the corporates loot the natural resources like minerals, gas, and spectrum. Actually, I was very happy to meet Justice Hegde, to see him, to hear his speech also. These kind of persons are now in the society to take on this Bellary. Because of him, only the political situations are changing. In earlier days, when corruption cases or scam is found, normally people belong to 3 sets are found as accused. First is obviously the politicians belong to the ruling class. But liberalization has changed the situation. But nowadays it is sad or distressed to note that the roles of certain politicians from opposition side are also in the loop. We are fortunate that these kind of practices are not working in Kerala. I am talking about the India's situation. The advanced way of corruption is to keep the people from opposition to keep in the loop to create the silence. I am talking the recent example. The biggest example of such unholy friendship is exposed when the CAG reports of the blatant corruption in Air India and KG Basin are tabled in Parliament last week. The 2 crucial CAG reports of blatant corruption were tabled in the Parliament barely an hour ago, not only hour, just 30 to 45 minutes, when the monsoon session of the Parliament is going to adjourn, sine die on September 9, this year. The CAG report of KG Basin exposes how Mukesh Ambani led the Reliance Group has looted the country and the collusion of the people in power in facilitating that loot. The CAG report on Air India exposes how the top management and people in government helped the Jet Airways, Kingfisher, Emirates by sickening our national career. It shows how the Boeing made the bumper when the government of India allowed the unwanted purchase of 111 aircrafts. Have we heard any objection from the opposition leaders, except people from left side in this country on this matter? Some few left leaders made some objections. After Anna Hazare started protest, we often hear an orchestrated campaign, Parliament is supreme. These people conveniently ignore the basic fact that we the people made constitution is supreme, not the Parliament. Hushing up and avoiding the debate of 2 crucial explosive CAG reports in Parliament exposes the hidden deals between certain people from opposition parties and the perpetrators of corruption in government. The CAG report on 2G spectrum scam has not debated in the Parliament till date, and we have seen how the Public Accounts Committee's report on spectrum scam was collapsed. Neera Radia tapes tells us how the corporates finalized the debates and avoiding certain people from speaking list in the Parliament. Arun Shourie, who was supposed to initiate the debate on KG Basin controversy on gas pricing, was sidelined in Rajya Sabha. Talks between the Neera Radia and NK Singh, the former bureaucrat turned Rajya Sabha MP, reveals how the corporates controls the debates in our Parliament. Fearing Arun Shourie would expose the KG Basin violations, who was supposed to initiate the speak, was changed as the 5th speaker. As a 5th speaker, Shourie got only 10 minutes, so he can't do anything. Neera Radia tapes tells us how they managed to make the BJP leader Venkaiah Naidu as the initiator of the debate. This is a clear example how the opposition parties are also involved in the corruption, which is dangerous in this democracy. Second set of persons are naturally the bureaucrats who are forced to administer corruption for their political masters. In some cases, there were incidents of charge sheeting of scapegoats or innocent people. Third are obviously the bribe givers. It ranges from petty contractors in the municipality level corruptions to the big corporates who grab the wealth of the country. But the 2G spectrum scam unexpectedly exposed the role of another two sets of people. It exposed how certain people from judiciary and media were colluded with the corporate crimes. Involvement of judiciary and media where the society banks when other establishments naturally collapse due to the pumping of money by the corporates is totally a sad and unfortunate affair. Niraradia tapes tells how the judgments were created, hushing the truth by the former Chief Justice K.G. Balakrishnan when Madras High Court Judge Justice Raghupati was pressured by Telecom Minister A. Raja is a dark era in the Indian judiciary. For quite some time, there was a tendency in Indian courts to reject the public interest litigations, having big ramifications in the corporate sector and looting of natural resources. At one point, courts have even scolded the public interest litigation petitioners and asked them not to involve in the corporate matters. Those were the days when the courts have asked the PIL petitioners not to come to the court for the corporate affairs. Anyway, Indian judiciary has almost corrected itself after S.H. Kapadia became the Chief Justice of India. Fortunately, the mindset of Indian courts is changing now. The epicenter of 2G scam lies in the unholy relationship between the corrupt politicians and corrupt persons in judiciary with the corporates. The saddest and unfortunate part was the criminal silence of the media on the big loot. Indian media kept silence when Anil Ambani's Reliance Communication and Ratan Tata's Tata Teleservices got the GSM licenses in 2001 at a price fixed in 2001. They got the license in 2007 at a price fixed in 2001. The price was only 1658. That is why the courts now ask the government, would you give the petrol and diesel to the common man at a price of 2001? Just getting the telecom licenses at a 6-year-old price of rupees 1,658 crores. Within 6 months, Tata sold its 26% of shares to Japan's Docomo at rupees 13,000 crores. Anil Ambani's bid to make the profit in the same way was collapsed by his enemy and his elder brother Mukesh. The person who approached the Supreme Court through public interest litigation were fired out. This unholy alliance with certain persons in judiciary and media gave courage to Telecom Minister A. Raja to go ahead with the 2G spectrum scam in the full scale within 2-3 months. Thanks to the Subramanian Swamy and Prashant Bhushan for bringing these scamsters before the law when all shut their eyes in the daylight corruption of India's natural wealth. Indian media started facing acute problems in mid-90s after corporates started infiltration into them by investing and or providing funds. This scenario became worse when in around 2005, Ambani brothers started quarreling. And during their family quarrel, they used the media to mudsling the rivals. Slowly, Tata Group, which was known for its business ethics, were also forced to do the same dirty tricks. From the owners, then the editors, and ultimately journalists from top to bottom were purchased by the corporate tycoons in a planned way to plant the favorite reports or attacking reports on the rivals or hushing up the non-favorable things against them. Even court judgments or damning CAG or CVC reports against the corporates were hushed up by the media. First, the corporates investing or providing funds or non-returnable or soft loans in media. Then they started purchasing journalists. Now they create their own men and women as journalists or editors. That is the catch them young policy. Now they acquired the media houses and adopt them catch them young policy in recruiting journalists. For the past 2 decades, we have been hearing big claims on foreign investment and fund flow from abroad. From where these funds are coming? Is it coming from the rich and big countries like USA, Middle East, Gulf or European countries? It is coming from the unheard little islands known as tax havens like Mauritius, Cyprus, Cayman Islands, Guernsey Islands, Luxembourg and British Virgin Islands. It is very sure that people or the governments of these little known places have nothing to do with India. The money coming from these places are not their hard-earned money also. It is nothing but the corrupt and looted money. This money is nothing but the corrupt or looted money from India which is rooted back here in other form. In other words, this dubious money routing process is the whitening of the black money. Bringing this money to India by India's corrupt people and corrupt corporates is just evading the Indian tax and whitening the looted or ill-gotten money. Earlier days, these kind of operations were through Singapore and Middle East. Now there were strict rules in Singapore and Middle East, and such practices were now shifted to the so-called tax havens. In 2001, central government has legalized the money flow from Mauritius and provided tax exemption by entering into a dubious treaty called Double Tax Avoidance Treaty. This dubious treaty is the fountainhead of the current problem of the dubious money pumping in India. Ill-gotten, looted, or kickbacks gained from India by politicians, dealers, and corporates would first illegally transferred out of India and then reach in some fictitious entity in tax havens. The illegal transaction is even though the international narcotics and terrorist fund flow routes. These tax havens live on these illegal dumping of money by charging certain percentage. This dumped money from tax havens returned back to India with dignified as global investment whenever ministers sign MOU and other things. Look at the names of the entities from the tax havens pumping money to India. They may be in the fancy names. ABCD Investments, XYZ Investments, ABCD India Equity Fund, XYZ Future India. In the 2G spectrum scam, we have seen certain curious names. Zebra Investments, Giraffe Consultants, Parrot Investments, Tiger Trustees, Cheetah Consortium, Swan Telecom. See the shareholding pattern. Nobody knows who owns these companies, and neither the government asks them who are the owners. Who owns Zebra? Answer is Zebra is owned by a consortium by Giraffe and Parrot. Then who owns these companies? Answer is Giraffe is owned by Parrot and Tiger, and Giraffe is owned by Tiger and Parrot is owned by Tiger and Cheetah. Same way the fraud corporate answer when you ask who owns this tiger. Likewise they say Cheetah is owned by Swan and Giraffe. So who owns Swan? Answer is simple. Swan is owned by Zebra and Tiger. There is no transparency in India's financial and company records to clarify who is the human face behind these companies. Though all know, all these zoologically named companies were owned by Anil Ambani. CBI says now they have found Tiger Trustees were sold to the Swan Telecom to Delphi Investments in Mauritius. And Anil Ambani has courage to tell the CBI investigators, I don't know whom I sold it. Because he sold to himself. Anil Ambani has courage to say, and CBI now says so. Now they are saying it is sold to another company called Mavi Investments, which is in Swiss Bank. And Anil Ambani says, I don't know. There is no need of superhuman intelligence to understand all these dubious named companies across the world belong to Anil Ambani. But due to his political clout, CBI inspectors can't touch him. So for saving their face, CBI fixes some staffers of Anil Ambani as scapegoats. Why no Anil Ambani and Ratan Tata in the CBI charge sheet in the Spectrum scam? People will hush to you. See, our stock market will collapse. What happens if stock market collapse? Nothing to you and me. who lives according to the laws of the land. The stock market collapse will only affect those who speculate in the stock market, those who trade with the dubious participatory notes. Who owns these participatory notes? Chidambaram introduced these participatory notes. There is just like an agreement. It says huge amount, just paper value, everything. Who owns these participatory notes? Indian authorities and regulators will say it is owned by XYZ consortium in some other tax haven, which is owned by ABCD consortium in other tax haven. Our government will never tell us who are the real owners of these funny named companies who need not pay a single tax in India. In 2009, SEBI's website, Stock Exchange Regulator SEBI's website listed who are the so-called foreign institutional investors in India. Out of the 60 companies with fancy names, 35 companies from Mauritius share a single address, same phone number, same street, same office room. It never disclosed the real owner's name. Indian media knew all, but the corporates who infiltrated into the heart and brain of this, brain by investments and manpower had forced the Indian media to keep in a silent mode. Indian media has no shame in praising Mukesh Ambani's 28-storied home in Mumbai in the heart of city. How a 28-storied building can be put under the definition of a home. When you want to build a home, when you approach the municipal authorities, there is a definition for home. No one asks this valid point. They conveniently ignore how Mukesh Ambani grabbed the land of Waqf board and demolished the orphanage in that land where hundreds of kids lived, and he built a palace in that by demolishing that orphanage. This incident tells us not only politicians but also religious leaders are also saleable community in front of corporates. Only one Muslim MP shouted in parliament, but when Indian media avoided the speech of the Hyderabad MP Asaduddin Owaisi. Very few newspapers reported Owaisi's speech. Mr. Mukesh, how can you sleep at the palace you built by demolishing the orphanage where hundreds of hapless kids slept? Fortunately, some social activists are fighting on this cause. Let us wish them success and dream one day the justice would send JCB to demolish this mad structure. It is a known secret that high and mighty who controls this country use private jets of Mukesh Ambani. Then how can the Indian Parliament, which is filed with the cronies and stooges of this high and mighty people, can debate the CAG report which exposes Mukesh Ambani in the KG basin? Sonia Gandhi travels in his private jets for to the New York hospital and return. And how can you think the Indian Parliament filled with her cronies talk against the Mukesh Ambani who is her transporter? So the CAG report which exposed the KG basin loot by Mukesh Ambani's Reliance Group and corruption in purchase of Air India were tabled on our great Indian Parliament just an hour before it is going to adjourn. Corporates buy all, even the left-wing extremists. They give money to Maoists in Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. Today's newspaper arrested SR's GM for transferring money to Maoists. For corporates, no differences between the mainstream politicians and Naxals. Who controls the area is the only matter. If Maoists have a control in that area, they will bribe the Maoists. If politicians have a control, they will bribe the politicians. Neera Radia tapes tell us what was Ratan Tata's conversation on bribing the mining of minerals from Chhattisgarh and Northeast. Tata Group was caught several times for providing money to Ulfa and LTT for protection to the tea estate business. Parliament has no shame in renominating the jailed Amar Singh in the standing committee which debates the Lokpal or Judicial Accountability Bill. Look at the composition of each and every standing committee of the Parliament. Who is the chairman of the Lokpal Standing Committee, Lokpal Bill and Judicial Accountability Bill? He is the advocate of Santiago Martin and he is the advocate of endosulfan, Abhishek Manu Singhvi. And they are asking us to, Parliament is supreme. Sure, you can see at least 3 to 4 members of MPs belonging to each of the corporate lobby are included to infiltrate or safeguard the business interests. Nowadays, some politicians have got courage to tell us to keep quiet after the casting of vote and obey the Parliament dictates. However, whatever may be the criticism, the success of Anna Hazare's battle gave us some sort of hopes on the existence of corrective forces in our country. Meanwhile, there lies a huge responsibility with us also. We should do it for the sake of our nation. It is a simple thing. Next time, please definitely go to the polling station and vote judiciously, forgetting the petty caste and communal barriers. Select the clean people to deliver the clean administration. This is the only practical first step to bring the transparency in our nation. Thank you.